Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim Tant. I work in Marco's marketing and sales operations role. I'm going to be your host today. So if you have any questions, if you're running into any issues, just drop those into the chat for me and I'll make sure that I monitor those and look at that for you. If you have any questions that you want us, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end. So go ahead and drop those in and I'll compile those for our speakers. We do have some polls today. So if you're on your desktop, we'd love it if you interact with us and give us a poll and we'll share those answers with everyone once we close that out in a minute. And then the session is being recorded. We will send out a follow-up email with the recording link and then any other documentation that we share as well. I'd like to introduce Shelly Caldwell, and I'll turn it over to you, Shelly.
Kim, thank you. Well, as Kim said, good afternoon, good morning, depending on when you're listening to this. My name is Shelly Caldwell. I'm the Managed Services Director here at Marco. Fortunate to be here for 19 years and to lead a team of technology or of consultants who help our customers solve business challenges with our managed services. So also joining me is Riley and James. Riley, want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, my name is Riley Knudsen, a solution consultant here, specializing mainly in our managed services and cybersecurity solutions. So spend a lot of time helping customers understand technical challenges, how we can help them drive the outcomes and ultimate solutions that we deliver. So look forward to the conversation today. I'll kick it to you, James.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. James Podsiomic. I'm one of Marco's pre-sale solutions engineers. I spend my days talking about Microsoft 365, Windows 10 to 11, and helping our customers navigate where they are today and how they need to get to where they need to be prior to the October deadline. So happy to be here with everyone today.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Thanks, Riley. So we're going to review our agenda. So we are going to talk about the comprehensive Windows 11 migration roadmap. And I'm so glad Riley and James are here to walk through that with us. We're going to discuss a strategic approach with understanding what kind of hardware you have inside your business environment and ideas on how to assess your environment in order to get those answers. We're going to deliver best practices around, hey, all these devices that are on your network, how do we manage them, specifically around their life cycle and the age of the equipment? And then we are seeing so much change inside of Microsoft and Microsoft 365. We want to provide solutions on the best way to optimize those subscriptions that you are paying monthly for. So Kim, sounds like we have a poll, huh?
We sure do. And I'll go ahead and launch that. Make sure everyone sees it. All right, it started. So the poll today is, where is your organization currently in the Windows 11 migration planning process? Have you not started yet? Are you in planning or early assessment phase? Are you in implementation? Your implementation's in progress, you've completed for some department or users, or you fully migrated? So we do have a minute now, 35 seconds for you to answer that. So drop those into the chat. It looks like we got some people answering, so that's great. I can't believe it's already May. October seems so far away, but then it's really not.
It's coming fast, that's for sure.
It is coming fast, for sure.
It kind of feels like last couple of days, it's kind of felt like it's been like July, right? It's been so nice and warm here in the Midwest.
Yeah, for sure. So it looks like we have about 5 seconds left. Right now, implementation in progress is our number one. So we do have some other people. So let me go ahead and share those poll results with the attendees. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And then looks like we had a split between planning or early assessment, implementation, or some completed. So no one was in the not started yet category. So that's a good thing.
Thanks, Kim. All right, let's talk about timelines and understanding where we're at with this Windows 10 end of support landscape. So we're 5 months away. So that's why it's so important. Hey, let's make sure that we have a really good plan. So we have had about 4 years to prepare for this time of transition. So it's important to understand that Windows 10 end of support date obviously is that October 14th. date, that's really where Microsoft will stop providing free updates, technical assistance, or security fixes for this operating system. Now, the key word here is free. So you do have some alternative options to pay for in order to get some additional support. The thing I did want to call out, like, you know, with unsupported systems after October, you will have higher risk, meaning that you want to make sure your systems are always patched. So we wanted to bring that to light, like, hey, we got a timer here, and make sure, hey, we got to start moving in that direction, which the poll says many of you are. So depending on your industry too, we want to make sure that you meet, preferably exceed, the compliance requirements that your organization needs to respond to. So next slide, Riley, I'll toss this one over to you. We've been asking, or a lot of customers have been asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, we field a lot of interesting ones, but these are generally the most common, right? That are really high level, business level. Like, hey, with these Windows 10 devices that are in our environment, you know, if we don't do anything come October, do things start working? Is that upgrade going to be mandatory? Is it free? Just kind of some of those general initial questions that often come up. So to really run through those pretty quickly, no, your device would not stop working, as we've seen in traditional past upgrades as well. There is some risk, as you mentioned, Shelley, that if you don't do anything, you know, Microsoft will stop publishing security updates. So it is important and recommended to take action. You know, there are some business reasons, right? So we work with a lot of manufacturing groups, as an example, where some of those applications, just for whatever reason, aren't compatible quite yet. So we'll talk through what some different options are. It will be a free upgrade. Apps will continue to work if they are compatible. So that's where it's important, as we talk through kind of the timeline and pre-planning process. Hey, application inventory, you know, making sure that we've got a plan in place. So we'll get into that. You know, first step, what are the options? You know, you could ultimately always do nothing, although we certainly wouldn't recommend that. You know, depending on the age, the equipment that you have in place, you could certainly upgrade that. So a good example, maybe you purchased a laptop in the last year and a half. It's suited up from a technical spec standpoint, and we just need to go through the process of upgrading it. That certainly is an option. Or, you know, you do run into some instances where maybe we've got some dated hardware. Maybe we purchased this equipment 5 or 6 years ago. It's time to actually probably make that CapEx investment and go about it that way. And then to speak specifically in those cases where, hey, for whatever reason, we just can't upgrade these from Windows 10 to 11, that's where we start to look at some of the alternative options, like Microsoft's extended security updates, which would allow for you to continue to get those updates for a defined period of time that we'll get into as well. Shelley, maybe I'll kick it back over to you. Like, we're talking a lot about Windows 10 to 11. Maybe give a little bit of a high level on what are some of the benefits? What are we seeing there in terms of Windows 11?
Awesome. Thanks, Riley. So I'm on Windows 11 and really enjoying it. So there you go. Personal opinion on my side if you're getting ready to move in that direction. So here's a couple things that we've been reading, we've been hearing from our customers. So Windows 11 provides stronger cybersecurity. So like, what does that mean, right? Those are words. So Windows 11 uses hardware-based security features, okay, to get a bit more technical. Secure boot and VBS are like features inside of Windows 11. It better protects businesses from malware and other cyber threats. Liking the Windows Hello, which offers a simple and secure option. So using a PIN or facial recognition, man, I love that. No more passwords. It's been really appreciated on my side. And we're hearing a lot of customers also appreciate. You can use the PIN too if you don't want to use the facial recognition. The interface that I have seen, I like more of the modern look, some of the newer icons, new start menu, and then there's a center taskbar on the screen. I am a multitasker, so at times I use Salesforce, Excel spreadsheets, and I can have them on the same screen and go back and forth. It's just something that makes the day a little bit easier. There is additional technology built into Windows 11 for a better virtual desktop experience. So that is it's an excellent thing, specifically if you're using that technology. You do have easier access to Microsoft Teams chat. I've noticed that because it's integrated into your taskbar. And then I have access to Copilot, so I wanted to share that with you. Copilot is something that I use every day, and I can and have set up voice commands on Windows 11. So I use Copilot as a virtual assistant. So just some tips and tricks there on some improvements that I've personally seen, but then also our customers have shared. And then finally, in Riley and James, I'm not sure if you've navigated this too, but man, you can find files faster. So Windows search now understands more natural language. So you can find files by like the description or maybe what's inside of the document versus just how the document is saved in your file structure. So really good benefits. All right, how about I toss this over to James? James, we got a planning guide for our customers. Pretty excited for you to uncover what our next slides are and ways our customers can use it.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, we've put some time into helping you out. Depending upon where you're at in your journey, you may be through a couple of these slides already. Hopefully, given where we are in the year, mid-May, 5 months ago, you had started this. But if you're not, we can help you step through this step-by-step planning guide. You know, for many organizations, if you've adopted a lot of cloud-based solutions, that migration is not going to be as painful. Really, it's what you need to consider is those legacy applications or a more complex environment. So moving forward onto the next slide, you know, the first thing is it all begins with understanding what your devices are. Are they capable of running Windows 11, doing an in-place upgrade, or do you need to look at, you know, purchasing and procuring new hardware? So depending upon, Microsoft makes a free assessment tool available. Marco's done some work with some of our really smart field engineers to put together some tools that we can deploy to help gather that information back. And if you're already leveraging something like Microsoft Intune to manage your environment, Microsoft built some tools into there. So regardless of whether or not you're still in a traditional on-prem or if you're in a cloud managed environment, we've got solutions that can help you at least perform this first step of assessing what can we do and what do we need to buy new ones for. So next one is we're going to plan for the upgrades. So we want to start looking at, you know, what devices need to be replaced and then formulating the budget for that. Starting on that process sooner rather than later is definitely something that we're advocating for so that you're able to get ahead of or get into the buying cycle as we continue to move further and further through the summer. Devices are going to become supply chain constrained. The goal is obviously to have everything done, hopefully prior to October 14th, so that you're not rushing through this at the last minute. So next you want to sit down and you want to start reviewing your software and your applications, you know, understanding what do we have today, what are we running, and are those applications going to be compatible with Windows 11, or are we going to have to work with our vendors on those applications? The good news is Windows 11 is not new. So any of those, you know, applications that are coming from your big vendors, Microsoft obviously, but Adobe, they've all been out. Windows 11's been tested. They know everything's working with it. Where we really see customers needing to come up with solutions is around, you know, ERP-based solutions or custom line of business applications that might have been built. Those are the ones that are going to require a little bit more foresight planning and then testing within your environment to make sure that you roll out Windows 11 in a safe and responsible manner that keeps the organization up and running and doesn't lead to any downtime. So the next thing is, once you've assessed your environment, once you've understood what hardware and software looks like, you want to start developing that migration timeline. And so, you know, picking your end date, when do I want to have all of this completed by? Start working backwards from there and figuring out what your project phases are. When do I need to procure hardware with current lead times so that I can get it in? How long is it going to take me to move through the upgrade cycle on individual devices so that you can then start to formulate where you need to be by what dates and put all of this together. And like I said, rest assured, Marco's here to help support you and help formulate this timeline. Then we'd be happy to get on a call with you and kind of talk through where you're at and how we can get you to the finish line.
Yeah, and I'll take a couple slides here. You know, from there too, as you're continuing as a part of that migration plan, it's always important as a part of any of these technology projects to make sure, yep, before we do anything, we've got a strong, sound backup solution in place and that we're still maintaining the same level of security as we proceed. So what I mean by that is, hey, do we have anybody who's maybe a bad corporate IT citizen who's saving a bunch of personal photos to their drive, or we're just continuing to save files, locally versus leveraging OneDrive SharePoint. So good opportunity to look at things like folder redirect into OneDrive, and then, obviously confirming and continuing to install interim security patches. We need to do that up until the point that we actually go through the upgrade process for sure. And next thing too, change management. Anytime there's change in the organization, training is important both for your staff and then obviously who's also supporting, the actual equipment that comes through. The first time I was on site and logged into a Windows 11 device when I'd been working off of a Windows 10 or a Windows 10 device, took me a little bit of time just to navigate the interface. So whether that's putting together standard work, getting a knowledge share put together so that, hey, as your users and individual employees have questions, they've got a place that they can take it, and then the IT team members that support them feel comfortable in doing so as well. And then obviously too, planning for contingencies. We've talked a little bit on that as well, to Jim's point, in terms of some of the reasons that you may, for whatever reason, run into an issue as a part of the upgrade or migration process, as well as any of those legacy types applications that would require that you maintain Windows 10. Important to make sure that those are mapped out, identified, and having a plan in place. So good example, hey, any of those that need to maintain Windows 10 for whatever reason, all right, we have a timeline and plan in place to apply the extended security updates. And then finally, it's always take this in stages. Nobody wants to, let's say, come September, be scrambling. It's important, more than ever right now with about 5 months left until this becomes to place, that we get a plan in place and make sure that we're testing this within, specific organizational units, not just pushing out a mass upgrade to all devices and then having to scramble on the back end there too. So making sure that we've got defined critical timelines with working with each independent organizational unit, so that we can see some of those unforeseen issues. That can be both from a technical standpoint and then obviously supply chain as well. We'll get into that here in the coming slides, but we've certainly seen some impact there from a tariff standpoint and just availability standpoint that James will get into as well.
Yeah, thanks,
Right,
Riley. So, kind of looking forward of, what can go wrong? How do you plan this in a responsible way and looking at your risk profile? So obviously, as we've discussed a couple of times here, you've got compatibility issues with existing hardware and software. Wanting to roll out a pilot of a couple of users, maybe in each department, everyone knows who their power users are, to do some initial testing to make sure, hey, everything's going to work well, and then from there, rolling things out to the rest of the organization or that department. Same thing comes when you come to downtime. You don't want to take the entire engineering department offline on the same day or the entire finance team while you roll out new hardware. So figuring out how are we going to do this in a way where we keep productivity at a high level, both from when you're going through that upgrade and then obviously this next bullet point as we talk to when a user gets Windows 11, kind of reiterating what Riley had noted there. When I moved over to Windows 11 after a decade of working on Windows 10 almost, starting to understand kind of, things are just in slightly different places. And so making that a contingency plan or solutions available for your end users, whether or not that's some point in time training, some reference materials, putting together, this is how you are successful with Windows 11 to achieve your job functions, putting that into your planning cycle. And then the biggest item, as we've touched on, is any custom-based software. Those are the ones where we see customers having the biggest impact from this transition, where the vendors never designed their software to work from Windows 11, or maybe it's something that was built in-house, making sure that you've got the time built in to work with that vendor or work with your internal development team so that you don't end up not being able to keep your business moving forward once you move over to 11. So from a current state standpoint, where are we in May? Obviously, as we've touched on, there's a huge wild card or multiple wild cards in play simultaneously right now that you need to be keeping in mind as you're moving through this. The first one is, hardware pricing and tariff impacts and implications around that. We'll just say it's a dynamic environment right now when it comes to pricing. And so wanting to get, the sooner you get your plan together on what hardware do we need to buy, you can get your budget allocated, and we recommend moving forward with the actual purchasing of it. That's going to do two things. One, make sure you've got the best pricing or at least locked in before something might change. The other thing is it's going to help you get ahead of bullet point number 3 here, supply chain issues. We are starting to see nothing like we had back during COVID, but there's some times where hardware is taking a little longer than it has. And as we continue to move through this summer, we're anticipating, and our vendors are anticipating, more and more demand for devices, and dealing with navigating all of that. Lead times are going to start to increase. Coupled with this is that most of the vendors are now starting to bring forward new hardware devices into their fold. New era of PCs that are, kind of AI enabled. And that brings with it a lot of things. It's not just that the PC is going to be able to do your job for you, but some new hardware in there that's going to give even someone not using AI a better overall experience, better battery life. So anyone in sales that's on the road, maybe they don't have to walk around with a power brick in their bag all day, and they can keep their device up and running. So just wanted to kind of touch on some of those areas. And again, we're here to help you navigate all of these. So that brings us to, what does the future look like? I touched on earlier, we've got solutions to help you assess where you're at, whether or not you're leveraging a traditional, on-prem domain controller, or if you've moved over to Microsoft's more modern way of managing devices within Microsoft Intune and leveraging the various components of that. So Intune is Microsoft's cloud managed platform. It's going to bring these other items together. You've got endpoint analytics, understanding what's running on my devices, configuration manager. We're going to make sure that all of my devices are doing what they want to do. And then autopilot, which is almost like the easy button when it comes to deploying these new hardware that you're going to need to purchase potentially, where you can pre-stage and set up devices so that when they arrive in your end user's hands, they're going to log into it. 5 minutes later, that device is going to be up and running for it. And then the users can even leverage a company portal and say, I need to get these pre-approved applications installed. So really what this is doing is it's lowering the burden on the IT individual or team that are responsible for rolling these devices out and creating a more simplified, forward-thinking management strategy for the organization. Because Windows 11's right now, Windows 12's around the corner, and we've heard that every year Microsoft's going to kind of adopt a new version of Windows. So here to help you kind of navigate that journey and set you up for success, not just for this, but for the future. So that brings us here to the autopilot and more of a modern approach to employee onboarding. So there's a whole lot of things that we can do here if you choose to partner with Marco in helping this out. And really what we're focused on is providing a really good day one experience to your new hires or current employees that might need to get a new device. And again, whether or not that's from needing to get a new one for Windows 11 or needing to get a new one because somebody's cat knocked over a glass of water and spilled it all over the keyboard. So we've got a whole bunch of options that basically are going to help you, procure hardware, fulfill those hardware requests, and then also support your end users on day one of getting that new hardware. We call this enterprise device orchestration. And if this is something that's of interest to you, fill out the survey at the end and we'll have somebody get in touch with it because we'd love to have a deeper conversation on how we can move through all of these things with you. So and on that note, if you scan the QR code on the screen here, it's going to bring you to a detailed case study. But we worked with a large scale construction company who had a lot of devices that needed to be replaced. They have a team of individuals that are responsible for managing Intune, but they needed some assistance in the procurement, the warehousing, and the configuration of those devices to be able to get them out and take a little bit of the burden off their internal IT team. So they partnered with Marco. What we were able to do is we were able to integrate and do some custom development work within their ServiceNow platform, tying what's happening at factories and distribution to the end users, and kind of creating what I like to use as the term as an automagical approach where everything's just kind of working seamlessly for that end user experience. But really what it means is there's a lot of orchestration being done behind the scenes in order to empower all of this. And so again, if you scan this QR code, it's going to bring you to a more detailed case study that'll spell all of this out. But they've seen a lot of success with it. We're having a lot of conversations with additional customers and bringing this solution down to them.
Thanks, James. Man, a lot of change out the windshield. I mean, it's exciting. Microsoft is investing literally billions of dollars into their platform, and the speed of change is going to be something we all need to adjust to. So knowing that it is likely that Microsoft will be coming out with, more updates, meaning like new operating systems consistently, like there's a lot of individuals that manage business networks that are saying I need some help. And so that's what we want to talk about next. So we would love to be able to help you identify inside your business what kind of assets you currently have. So what's your endpoints, laptops, desktops, figure out what's all within your environment. And we have a way to do this. So we want to be able to help you with that. I know that when Kim, you put the poll up, many of the people have already started the process. So that is fantastic. But if say the workload's getting really heavy and you need some help and support, we're here to assist you, okay? So we can really start walking through the journey of what this automated device lifecycle management process is. A lot of it takes just education around, the Microsoft features and what it all means. So you can see the bullet points on the screen on all the different ways that we can help. We can help you with the migration plan. We can help you with migration assistance, actually, having people walk through that with you. But I do want to make sure that you're aware of, if you have a very heavy workload and you need some help managing your Microsoft overall, Marco has managed services that wraps around Microsoft, and it's called ACE platform. Okay, it's really a platform that we partner with you as an IT leader or IT or even leader inside the business. We help with innovating implementing all the great innovation inside of these Microsoft subscriptions. So we'd love to help you at any stage of the journey, wherever you are at. So we're probably getting some questions around okay, how do we get started? So we want to make this easy. Kim, thank you for helping us out. We have a web page that when you scan this QR code, you can answer 8 questions, and we have an interactive tool that will help us get started. And once it's completed, we'll reach out to you to then schedule a follow-up meeting, likely with some of the individuals on this call today. So go ahead and scan that QR code, put your contact information in there, and we will be reaching out to you.
All right, this is time we have some questions. So just a reminder, if you do have any questions that popped up as we were going through the presentation, drop those into the chat now, and then we will have a little bit to answer those and then let you off early, which is always a good thing. So we did have some questions come in. So I'll start with I think this one might be a good one for James to answer, but do you have a recommended timeline for planning? Is it Are we in the window? Is it 3 months? What is that recommended timeline? Yeah.
Loaded question there, Kim. So yes, I mean, timelines are really kind of customized and dependent upon your organization. So obviously the things you want to consider is the amount of devices that need to be analyzed and or replaced. How complex is your installed software application stack? Are you mostly a SaaS-based organization, or are you still running a lot of legacy, either on-prem or desktop-based applications? And then from there, we start to figure out this strategy. What does your budget look like? Are you going to be able, if you have to buy 50 new devices, is that a one-shot purchase? And then the size of your IT team, whether or not it's internal or working to partner with somebody like Marco in order to get this moving forward. So all of those different variables are going to come up with a custom solution for what does that timeline look for you. But given where we are and depending upon where you are, the sooner we get a conversation started and moving forward around this, the better. Because like I said, no one wants to be working through this on October 13th before end of support happens on October 14th. Although there are some options for devices that you're not going to be able to get across the finish line. So hopefully that helps a little bit answering that.
That's a good one. Then we had, this is a good one that I thought just to talk about. So Windows 10 end of support is a driver to review just your overall organization, like IT asset management, how you're going to do that. Because as you all mentioned, this is going to come up and again, right? Of like, how do we continue to make sure that we have the right devices, they're on the right operating systems. So why should that ITAM, so that IT asset management, why is that important? And why should they have that in place? Do you have any suggestions? And I'll open this up to the group.
I'll start. The first thing when it comes to IT, and managing your environment is you want to understand what's there. This comes both from your Windows 11, but also as a best practice from a security standpoint. You can't protect what you don't know that's there. You can't upgrade what you don't know that's there. So whether or not you have a different IT asset management solution, maybe you have an RMM agent deployed that pulls everything in. Maybe you're wanting to look and leverage Intune for it. Some sort of way to evaluate kind of what you have and what's installed on it is going to be a best practice that we recommend for any organization. Riley or Shelley, I don't know if you have anything else additional that you want to add to that.
Yeah, I'd add just in terms of from like a documentation standpoint, in terms of turnover and technical positions, it's a really competitive field, and some organizations luck out and they've got the same IT resource who sticks around for 30 years, and that's awesome. And then they always amass, quite a bit of knowledge, and that's a lot of the times up in their head. So if we can have that in a central place, all of that documented, everything from an asset management standpoint captured, you kind of avoid some of those grenades down the road. If somebody were to step in and can completely understand, like, here's our scope boundary, here's what we need to protect, similar to what James had alluded to.
I think maybe just to add on to what James and Riley said is like, I know I shared this, but like truly feel this when I say it, like no matter where you're at with asset management, like we've had individuals come to us and say, I have a Word document or I have an Excel spreadsheet with all of these things. That is completely okay. You're somewhere and we want to be able to help you move forward. So it's merely, hey, these are, a couple different options that we have with asset management tools. And let's just talk through those options. And then once we have some good dialogue, let's recommend the best solution for your organization.
Good question. Shelley or Riley, this might be a good one for you, but does Marco offer support for licensing management and configurations for a Microsoft environment?
I'm looking at Riley. You want to take that one?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So, our partners are able to directly purchase and interact with Marco from a licensing standpoint. So we're a direct tier 1 provider. So that allows for us to have some tie-ins to our client portal that was referenced earlier on from James, where you can actually procure the licensing out of there without having to log into the admin console. Probably the more important part is the value addition from a really deep technical bench from James' team, in terms of helping organizations understand, what are their goals within the Microsoft sphere? How can we help drive those from a compliance standpoint? Are we doing and checking all the right boxes that we need to? And then, from a business standpoint too, are there enhancements or automations that we can do similar to what, James talked through with an autopilot that requires, a pretty robust skill set. And, Microsoft's constantly changing, adapting, and evolving. And if you've got somebody who's trying to do a little bit of everything, it can be really hard to stay up to speed. So we've got a deep bench of technical experts that can certainly help guide our customers in those conversations and overall management.
Great. And then here's one that came in. So, and they apologize. Sorry if I missed this, but is the upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, is this free from Microsoft?
If licensed properly, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So if it's available, as I say, it should be free for the upgrade. And then obviously you have to think of if it's not eligible for upgrade, that's when all the other things come into place. That's a good one. And then this is another question that came in too, like, how do I check if my device is compatible for an upgrade? So is there a tool? Like, how do we help with that?
I'll take that one. So, yeah, Microsoft does have a compatibility checker that you can leverage. So if you have a couple devices in your organization, it might be easy enough to just kind of move around and do that. If you have a larger fleet and or a highly distributed fleet, I was on the phone with a customer yesterday that has roughly about 138 devices spread out amongst 58 different physical locations. So obviously it's very hard for one individual to kind of go around and manually check this, and employees might not be able to. So that's where leveraging some of the automation or the tools that Marco's built, whether or not you're in an Intune environment or a standard, kind of traditional on-prem infrastructure, we've got ways that can kind of help consider it the easy button to help evaluate what's there and help you kind of get that understanding of what do I need to replace versus what can I just go ahead and click the update button on.
And then this one is the one that was interesting. So we have software that we know will not be compatible with Windows 11. They've tested it. They need it. It's critical. What options do they have?
I'll maybe start and then might lean on James specifically, or maybe Riley too. So when you know that there isn't software that's not compatible, we should have a conversation. Like, what is it? What's your agreement look like inside of this software, so that we can start working with you to understand what that looks like. It could be a longer journey than what we're aware of, or meaning you're aware of. And we have teams of experts that can help you with what that migration plan would be versus, moving from Windows 10 to Windows 11. James, anything else to add on that?
Yeah, just that that would potentially be a great solution for, what Microsoft's got the extended security updates. So they are supporting those sorts of devices for an additional fee. It's $61 a device for year one. Year two is $122 per device, and then year three is $180 per device. So it's kind of stacks up cumulatively, but each year that you purchase that, Microsoft will continue to provide security updates, and that gives you a longer runway of time to be able to kind of figure out, and your vendor, how do we get this software application working with Windows 11? So that would be a great situation where you might want to look at that for those devices that are required to run those, so that you can plan that next step accordingly.
So that's a good way to get that security protection, and also, allow that longer RAM time and also minimize risk, right? By making sure that we're continuing to support those devices that we know can upgrade. Well, those are all the questions that I have. So those are some really good ones. So thanks everyone for putting those into the chat. And as I said, Shelley, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I guess just a quick reminder, the reason we want to make this easy for you truly. And, just a quick reminder to scan the QR code, there's about 8 questions. If you don't know the answers to the questions, completely understandable, but we'll reach out and get started with you. I guess the following is like Riley, James, Kim, thank you for joining us today and talking about what this transition is and what it could look like. Otherwise, just excited to hear from all of you. And thank you for joining today.
Yes. So someone snuck in a question.
Good. Yeah.
And it's a good one. So can you, like James or Riley, talk to us, like what is the average time to actually upgrade to Windows 11? So if the device is eligible to upgrade, is it hours, days? Like, can you give us a maybe just an average time?
Yeah. So I hate to say this, but it's kind of dependent upon the device. So first, you got to download the update from Microsoft, which is going to take some time depending upon your internet connection. And then we've seen on average anywhere from as little as about 20-25 minutes once the download's been done for your device to move through that upgrade, up to as long as about an hour and a half. Those are the averages, and I realize that's a really long range of time, but a lot of it comes down to device specs that is going through this upgrade process. Slower hard drives, low RAM, low processor speeds, you can just assume things are going to take longer. Newer, more modern devices with maybe faster hard drives and more RAM, things are going to move a little bit quicker. So the easy answer is it depends, but that's kind of the range we're seeing. So
it's a good one. Perfect. Well, good. I was gonna say, we really will wrap it up. And Shelley, thank you for that, letting me get that little last question in. Everyone have a wonderful day. And as I mentioned, we are recording this session. We will send out the recording, and then we'll also share all of the assets that we did. So our time plan, or our plan that we have for you, our website that you can go and fill out this information if you want to need help from Marco, and anything else that was shared as well. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.